right, welcome back to The Digital Dilemma, the show where we break down the collision of business strategy, technology, everyday decision-making in the world that moves fast and never stops evolving. Today's episode couldn't be more relevant. Marketing in a downturn. How to stay relevant and with strategic when budgets tighten. Let's face it, when the economy shifts, marketing budgets are often the first to feel the squeeze. But cutting back doesn't mean fading out. It just means playing smarter. Joining me today, someone who knows exactly how to do that. Reid Holmes, a top-tier marketing strategist who's helped everyone from global brands to fast-growing local businesses by helping them navigate rough waters without losing momentum. So Reid, I'm super pumped for you to be here. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Nick. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. So we'll just kick it right off and start with that first question, which are common mistakes. So Reid, when the economy starts to tighten, what's the first move companies usually get wrong when it comes to their marketing strategy?
They cut their budget, and I can understand the knee-jerk reaction to do that, but essentially what you're doing is you're increasing your competitor's share of voice, or you're unwittingly increasing their budget because you're going to be quiet. And if you don't go to the game, you can't win the game.
Good point. Yeah, if you're not in front of anybody, right, you've cut yourself out of that market share. How are people going to see you?
You're saving money, but you're not generating any new revenue, or you're hurting yourself in those efforts.
For sure. So number two, measuring that ROI under pressure. So how should companies shift their approach to measuring marketing ROI when results are being watched like a hawk and budgets have to be lean?
Well, there are different things you can do, particularly today with social media. And the main thing is, there are basically two things. One, you can either cut your prices, which I do not recommend because you're cutting your margin and you're kind of signaling yourself as a budget brand. And you want to come out of these things stronger and more profitable with better margins. So your best bet is to shift the value equation. So what can you or your team be thinking about to make the perception of you as a valuable piece of utility in people's lives? What can you do? How can you change that framing? An example I just did today when I did a post was, okay, you look at the work that's being done for Airbnb. They're saying, why should you go as a family and buy and rent out for a week 3 hotel rooms when you can go stay at Airbnb and be a family? That's a wonderful proposition. And it's not, you'll save money at renting a house instead, or you'll get more, whatever, as a house. Maybe there's a pool or whatever, who knows? And that's all wonderful. But the point is, they're dramatizing a problem that no one has thought about solving before. And they're doing it in a world where the value becomes self-evident. So that's important. And so as marketing budgets get cut, the thing to do is find those smart ways to get your word out. And another way to do that is not necessarily with just paid media. What can you proactively solve for people that others will want to talk about? That's what I call that appreciated branding. It's what kind of solutions are not being addressed that you, not your product, you as a brand can advocate for and earn people's appreciation, and then they will share your message. And that doesn't cost you anything. It's just cost you time to think it up and pay the people who know how to do it a lot cheaper than paying to borrow someone else's audience.
Absolutely. So in reference to that, would it be a good idea to then bundle something on that's maybe low cost as an additive to then help build that value for a company?
What I would be doing right now, well, first of all, if you don't have an internal kind of creative studio that kind of helps you create content, you're already late. You should have that because you need it to be nimble. And so that's number one. Number two, you should be doing pilot programs and I have a thing called the appreciation loop, but basically it's a small bet for a potential huge upside. So I have a potential client I've been talking to who saw someone speaking about him on a podcast and proactively thanked him by creating a custom jersey and sending it to him.
Awesome.
And he told me about this and I said, that's great. How much does that cost? Nothing. What you should have done is involved a friend of his who could be there with a phone to video this gift being received. Now you've got content, and that
Yeah,
didn't cost you anything other than what you just paid to do. So you're just getting a little bit of credit for the proactive act of kindness. Those are the kinds of things that not only will get you traction for a very efficient price, but it makes the world a better place. It makes people better
absolutely.
versions of themselves. And those are the world. Obviously, we need that.
Yeah, and you make such a great point that it's not just all about, the old school marketing and the blocking and tackling that we all have to do, but then merging in some of that social and emotional connection that we have as a brand, that we have made impacts, and let's showcase those impacts,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
Great point. So question 3, cut versus keep. So let's say a CMO walks in with a 30% cut to their marketing budget. What should they absolutely not cut? And where's the best place to trim the fat without potentially losing impact?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's more of a case by case basis. If you're a transaction driven company, you're going to need to keep feeding that beast, because as a CMO, if those things go down, you can go in and say, well, we got the budget, but you'll be a hero if you can figure out how to get the same value without that budget, even though you're kicking yourself in your own butt, because they're going to go, well, if you can do it less now, why couldn't you do it like that before? It's really, CMOs are put in such an untenable position these days. It is like you can't win for winning. So the question of what do you cut, what do you keep, what do you whatever, it is really on a case by case basis. What are your KPIs? What are you trying to, what kind of goals is the C-suite looking for you to deliver on? And then you go, okay, well, if that's what you want, here's how I will reshift all the ingredients in the kitchen to still get you your cake, but it's not going to be as big, or it's going to have thinner frost. I don't know. Horrible analogy, but you get my point.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also kind of what I'm hearing is that sometimes what we need to do is, hopefully the C-suites are telling you, let's focus more on those products that are more profitable, and maybe trimming could be some of those products that maybe are not as profitable in these times to help with those situations. You can't stop doing it, right? To your point, all you're doing is those products. Then at that point, they're hearing all your competitors instead of
Right.
you.
Well,
So
and
if you, yeah,
that's where my personal way of doing it, if I were in the vacuum of not kind of on a case by case basis, I would be supporting the brand at every possible turn, because resilient brands, they survive these downturns much stronger. They can keep their profit margins. They're not as price sensitive. They're able to justify their value. And so if you can keep that going, you're going to come out way ahead. I think there was some kind of HBR piece of information, or Forbes or something, that basically said in the last economic downturn, the companies that did not cut their brand marketing ended up with an 18% higher share after.
yeah,
Um,
they
that's
flourished.
they flourished, and that's a
Yeah.
pretty big deal. And as a marketing director, to be able to have data that suggests, that's a good path. That's probably your best path to being a hero down the road.
Right. Totally. I completely agree. And I've been lucky enough in my past that the organizations I've been a part of, that's exactly what their premise was. Don't stop what's working today, because as everybody else drops their budget, people are just going to hear us more, to your point at the very beginning. And that's exactly what happened. We gained market share times 2 before whatever that economic downturn.
Yeah,
A great
yeah.
point. So question 4, low cost, high leverage tactics. So for small to mid-sized businesses listening, many without deep pockets, what are your go-to low cost marketing tactics that could still move the needle, if any of those exist?
Well, social media is a big lever. I mean, and the old saying is, what's the old saying? The time to plant an oak tree is not today, it's 20 years ago. So if you have a social following, start leveraging that, get busy on it, start providing valuable content, valuable utility, and don't make it about you. I mean, I told this to my creative teams for 25 years. Don't tell me how good your product is. Tell me how good your product will make me. That's critical. I want to know that you're not just doing this as a selfish thing to looking for a transaction. You're doing this. You're here to help me solve problems. And if you can proactively find problems that I didn't realize, oh, gosh, that's really helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's where you want to be. That is the best North Star, as I've found in the writing of this book and stuff. Go for appreciation. Go for how can you earn that appreciation? It works not only for brands, but it's good advice for husbands too.
Totally. Great point for any relationship, right? Whether
Yeah,
business or even personal, right? That's
that's
such a
right.
great point. So, question 5, messaging in uncertain times. Consumer psychology shifts so fast. So, during these downturns, fear, hesitation, value sensitivity, how should businesses adjust their messaging to meet customers where they are in that moment of that economic downturn?
I think you need to find a way to be who you are, but be that helpful, understanding friend that's paying attention. So, I mean, that's what a brand is. It's a relationship where someone has earned your trust. It just happens to be a company. And that sounds crazy, but the fact is when you trust somebody, they will proactively try to help you in different ways. They'll understand empathetically what you're going through and try to find ways to help you with that. Another great example that's out there today is J.C. Penney. I don't know if you've seen their new campaign. It's fantastic. And it would be good in any economic environment, quite honestly. But in this one, it's even more powerful because they made the observation that it's not about necessarily about your ability to change your look. It's about the look you can get from someone else who's jealous of the way you look. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a heck of a cool flip.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
I would bet that that's working like gangbusters for them.
yeah. Well, and I think one of the things I respect about you most when I hear your content and I hear the things that you say, it's every single time it goes back to the emotional connection that you can make with someone. The minute you make an emotional connection with someone, which to your point is often so inexpensive to do on social, for example, that story you just told where someone sent him something that they weren't even expecting. And yet that video, had he taken that unboxing video, that probably does go viral because that kind of touches everybody's heart. Like this person impacted someone else so much that they went out of their way to do something and buy something and ship it to them. And that's really awesome. And to your point, we should all be celebrating those moments and those emotional connections that we're making. So great points. So question 6, staying with vision without a big spend. So with less ad spend and fewer campaigns, how can brands stay top of mind and preserve that trust with their audience?
Well, to me, you've got to kind of jack culture a little bit. You've got to pay attention to what's going on and do things that people will want to talk about. And that's how you turn your dimes into dollars. You got to figure out how what you can say is something that, I mean, it's kind of like a joke. It's kind of like if you can find that insight and it's so recognizable that you can't ignore it, people are going to want to pass it along. And it's the same thing with culture and with what your brand stands for, what your values are, and how you can advocate for that as a mission that other people will want to applaud you for and share for you. Like, for example, here's another story that I heard, and I know we're going, but a friend of mine took a job at Hy-Vee. It's a it's a grocery store here in town. He had just started. Woman pulls up, elderly woman, and he realizes her order hadn't been shopped. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm new. I don't know what the company does for this kind of thing." So I talked to my manager, he says, and my manager said, "Okay, give her $100 gift card. Go out there and tell her she can go home and we're going to go shop her order and tell her we're going to drop it off at her house within the hour." And that is a very inexpensive way to earn appreciation. And I can guarantee you she told that story to a lot of
Thousand
her
times.
friends. And nothing is more true in economic downturns, in any time of the economy. Your current customer always knows your next customer. You want your current customer to be your ad. Word of mouth is still the most powerful advertising medium ever invented. So empower people to spread the good word about who you are and what your mission is and what your values are. That's important.
Yeah. Just something that simple that means so much. And absolutely, we've all heard stories like that. And we've probably all, whether we've heard them, we've told other people about them. And like you said, that's where that virality goes, and it's out of social media sometimes. But to your point earlier, take advantage of those moments on social. So seriously, Reid, this was packed with value. You've given our audience and practical tools, fresh perspective, and a reminder that smart marketing isn't about spending more. It's about spending with a purpose. And for those of you listening, remember, staying relevant during a downturn isn't about survival mode. It's about sharpening your strategy and showing up even stronger when the market rebounds. Today's episode gave you something to think about. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, leave a quick review, and share this with a friend, colleague, or who's trying to figure out their next move. I am Nick Dreyfus, and this is The Digital Dilemma, where we turn chaos into clarity, one conversation at a time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reid. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely loved it. Thanks so much.